All right. Good night, everybody. Welcome. We have a little technical issue here. Welcome to Conversations with Rickford Burke. Happy holidays. I hope you guys had a great Christmas. I wish you all the best for the new year, but we'll talk before the new year. So good night, everybody. Good night, everybody, wherever you are. Share this link. Text me. Let me know where you're watching from. I hope you guys had a great Christmas, as I said before. There's 2 weeks now since we didn't do this podcast. Share the link. Text me whether you're watching from Europe, Africa, Asia, the Caribbean, Guyana, United States, or North America, Canada, US, West Coast, East Coast, wherever. Text me, let me know where you're watching from. Wow. I see the viewership just shot up. Shot right up straight to 1,000 right away. Share the link. Keep sharing this link, and I'll be right back in 60 seconds. Share the link. Everybody on this link, share the link to 20 of your friends. We'll be right back. 60 seconds. All right, that was a quick 60 seconds. Keep sharing the link, everybody. I see so many of you on here already. Thank you for texting me to let me know where you're watching from. RG Yard, good night. Good night, everybody. Some people texting me to let me know they're watching from Ghana. Wow. Good night, Ghana. Good night, Trinidad and Tobago. Good night, Barbados. Wow, I'm seeing these text messages. Thank you guys for texting me. All right, so we have a very important topic tonight. Very interesting topic. Topic that has to do with the future of our country. And so I want everybody to share this link. Get on every platform you have on social media and share this link, whether it's on Instagram, Facebook, Clubhouse, Messenger, email, YouTube, Twitter, whatever social media you're on. Share this link right now so that everybody could know. Conversation with Rickford Burke is on, and we're talking about the wealth and the national patrimony of our country and how it is being squandered. I'm not sure why I'm not seeing the level of outrage in Guyana that is required based on what the PUP is doing. So I want you to share this link. I want to give you another opportunity. I have to sound like Sharon. Share this link. But share the link, everybody. We're talking tonight about the PUP's attempt to change the law so that they could raid the fund, the oil money here in New York that is banked in the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. Billions of billions and billions of dollars. The PPP cannot touch that money without putting in place certain requirements which are set out in the law passed by the Granger administration. And so, because that law requires a broad-based committee, and I'll lay out to you excuse me, how broad-based that committee is just now, that the government has to give an account to the money for. The committee should have representatives from every sector of the society. They don't want to do that. They want to be able to go in the fund, take the money without anybody in the country knowing. They want to be able to steal the money. And I'll go through later tonight in the program, how much money the PPP stole from Guyana based on a study done by the International Multilateral Financial Institutions and Dr. Clive Thomas, renowned Guyanese economist. So share the link, everybody, and I'll be right back again in 60 seconds. Keep sharing this link. Everybody share this link to someone. It's very important. The PPP is about to steal Guyana's oil money, and they want to pass a law that allows them to do it stealthily, without a trace, so that nobody in Guyana could know when, how they're drawing down our money, and how much money they're spending on the country or themselves, whether they want to spend our money to build another Pradoville. And we know the person who is so-called in charge of development and finance is a big thief. Build a big multi-million-dollar home, $100 million home on the waterfront. Big thief. Now he wants to remove all the laws that regulates Guyana's oil money. Share the link and we'll be right back. ready to go. Thank you. So far, we have thousands of you, but keep sharing the link, everybody. Share this link to, as I said, 20 other people. Now, I'm not sure how many of you know that in 2019, the Granger administration passed a law called the National Resource Fund Act. The National Resource Fund Act. Now, the National Resource Fund Act, passed by the Granger administration, is a body of laws that regulate how Guyana's oil money should be spent and how it should be banked, how it should be managed, how it should be maintained, how it should be administered. And under that law, the government was able to establish a bank account in New York, in the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, where it could get good interest. And so whenever our oil sales are completed, the payments go directly to that account. And that's under the Granger administration, that's the law. And the law also required the appointment of an oversight committee, almost a regulatory committee, to regulate and oversee how this money is spent. Ensure that there's accountability, ensure that there's no theft of the money, ensure that the money is only spent for the development of Guyana and to improve the lives and the well-being of the people of Guyana. That's all this money is for. Nothing else. Now, when the PP came to power, as a matter of fact, the law also says how this committee should be appointed and how it should be composed. And so as to make sure that there's broad representation across all sectors of Guyana, every person, every people, everybody, every section of the population. This law includes a representative from everybody. Listen to this. The law says that on the committee to manage this fund, to oversee the spending of this fund, the Natural Resource Fund of Guyana, which is the fund for Guyana's oil money to be banked in, to be placed in, and the sale of other natural resources. So that money should go into this fund. And the fund should be managed by what is called a Public Accountability Oversight Committee. A Public Accountability Oversight Committee. Call up your relatives and friends, let them know that this is an education session. Because as Guyanese, we have to take action after tonight. So the first requirement of the law is that each of the 10 regions must have a representative. So the president will have to send out letters to all of these organizations, asking them to nominate a representative for this organization. So each of the 10 regions will have a representative. Then civil society organizations, the consortium of civil society organizations will nominate one person. Then women's organization will have one representative. So all of the women's organization should get together and nominate one person to be on this committee to manage the oil resources. Then one person from the youth organizations. One person from all the youth organizations will have to come together and decide on one representative to be on this committee. Not to be outdone, the Transparency Institute gets one representative. The Guyana Bar Association, one representative. The Consumers Association, one representative. Guyana Extract Industries Transparency Initiative, one representative. Guyana Press Association, one representative. The Trade Union Movement, one representative. The Institute of Chartered Accountants, so it's the association of all the accountants, one representative. The Private Sector Commission, one representative. The University of Guyana, one representative. Broad-based, you can't complain about that, right? Can't complain about that. Very broad-based. Everybody's mentioned here. The president appoints a 22-member committee to sit to oversee how this money is spent. They will receive all the reports, all of the requisition for the funds, where it's being spent, who signed for what? Oversight. They would be able to question anything pertaining to this fund. PP don't want that. They said, no, that is too cumbersome. 22 people, too many people. The Parliament of Guyana has 65 people, and they make laws for the country. This is 22 people representing a broad base of the society. They said, no, that's too much people. Too many people would know what we're doing with the money. We don't want that. No, we have to change that law. You would believe that the PUP government that has a history of stealing the people's money, billions of dollars, you would think that they would want the most transparency. No, they don't want that. They want to be able to thief your money, steal the people's money, because they think Guyana belongs to them and their own ethnic supporters. They don't want anybody to know how they're spending the money, how much money is in their account, where the money is being spent, who is withdrawing the money. They don't want you to know that. Too much information. So guess what? They have now decided to go to Parliament and change that law. That's what they'll do tomorrow. They're going to Parliament tomorrow and change that law. Have you ever heard a country saying there's too much accountability and too much transparency? That's what the PUP government is doing. They're telling the people of Guyana, no. Too much transparency, too much accountability here. We want to be able to take this money and do whatever we want with it because we're the government. And no representative from the women's organization, the youth organization, and the University of Guyana, and the trade union movement and the bar. No, they mustn't question us because we're the elected government. That's what Barjagda said. These people here weren't elected by nobody. So they shouldn't be on the committee to oversee how our money, Guyanese, that oil belongs to every Guyanese, whether inside or outside of Guyana. It is the people's money. But the PPP government wants to steal the money. They want to be able to raid the fund. And right now they can't touch the money because under the rules by which this fund was established, the government has to put certain things in place before they draw down on the money. So guess what they have been doing? They have been borrowing against the money. Borrowing money from China, borrowing money from everywhere against the money in the fund. So technically, they're spending the money because once all of these regulations are in place, they now have to take that money and pay back all these loans. So all of the money that they're giving to GUYSUCO workers, the $250,000, the $250,000 they're giving to all the GUYSUCO workers who were laid off, they're borrowing that money, borrowing against that money in that fund. All the money that they're giving to their farmers, the supporters who were farmers under the flood relief, they're borrowing from that money. They are already raiding the fund. And if you notice what they're doing, all these contracts that they're putting out, they're borrowing against the money. And let us look at how this money is going. The money that they're borrowing, let's see how they're spending it. They're giving contracts only to East Indian supporters. They can't deny that. If they want to deny that, let them publish a list of every person or company that has gotten a contract since they came to power on August 2nd, 2020. And we will see 99.9% went to East Indian supporters of the PPP. Then they're giving GUYSUCO is a cash cow. Last week again, they went to Parliament and gave GUYSUCO $2 billion. Month before, $2 billion to GUYSUCO. Before, $5 billion. And we know who these GUYSUCO, who's GUYSUCO? GUYSUCO are PPP supporters. They're the backbone of GUYSUCO. So technically, the PPP is transferring Guyana's wealth to their East Indian supporters. Nothing wrong with East Indians, but they're not giving it to all of the East Indians. They're giving it to their East Indian supporters. And of course, they're leaving out the black population and the Amerindian population. They are taking the country's wealth and transfer it to themselves. That's what they're doing. They're taking, and there's no proper regulation. There's no proper regulation with regard to how these contracts are given. The contracts are given to their friends through the ministries and then through cabinet and then through the procurement board. The procurement commission is not there. We don't know what the requirements are. Everybody who their friends who never built a road, getting billions of dollars in contracts to build roads, billions in contracts to build government buildings. All PPP supporters never had the experience to execute this kind of work, but they're getting billions and hundreds of millions of dollars in contract. And I am not sure why the people of Guyana are not expressing outrage. They're spending our money on their friends and supporters and themselves like drunken sailors. And every one of those contracts, PPP persons, ministers are getting kickbacks. Some of them have shell companies that they own in other people's name and they're getting contracts from the government. You had the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Amerindian Affairs, a member of the PPP, allegedly collecting a bribe in broad daylight in a sting operation because somebody probably didn't get enough kickback. So they squealed on her. They snitched on her. And the police stood up right there and watched her collect a bribe, hundreds of thousands of dollars in bribe, in order for some contractor to get a contract. Now I understand that she'll be charged and placed before the court. But that is happening with all of them. They are transferring Guyana's wealth to themselves and their supporters. That's what they did. That's what they did when they were in government before. That's how they built Pradoville. That's how all of these people, all of them have big mansions. That's how that big mansion by Sparendam was probably built. Because up to now, there's no account for how that mansion was built that cost hundreds of millions of dollars. And let me tell you what the international community says. Not what I say. The international community said, under the PPP government, when they were in power from 1992 straight to 2015, they stole approximately $5 billion from the Guyanese people. You know, we could build a whole hospital or two hospitals or a hospital in every region with $5 billion. The international community said the PPP stole or siphoned off from the treasury over $5 billion. And if you don't believe me, ask Dr. Clyde Thomas, renowned Guyanese economist. Dr. Thomas did a study on corruption in the PPP government, under the PPP government. And he analyzed their corruption from 2001 to 2008. And he said, Guyana lost 188 billion Guyana dollars to corruption under the PPP from 2001 to 2008. That's approximately $1 billion. And that's just from 2001 to 2008. Public procurement, that's the tenders, the contracts that the government is giving out. Due to public procurement fraud, which is what they're doing again now, Guyana lost $140 billion. $140 billion. And he went on to do another study. Just between 2010 and 2012, Guyana lost US $443 million to PPP corruption, which is 90 billion Guyana dollars. And we never had oil yet. We did not have oil yet, and Guyana lost 90 billion US dollars. Sorry, 90 billion Guyana dollars. Don't quote me wrong. 90 billion Guyana dollars. 443 million US dollars to PPP corruption from 2010 to 2012, 2 years. Could you imagine that? In 2 years. In 2 years, they stole $90 billion from the Guyanese people. I'm not saying that. Dr. Clive Thomas said that. He did a study, and this is what he came up with. And none of them are in jail. And they're now running around talking about jailing new ministers for selling some wharf below market value. When they took all of the part of this money here, they took to prepare to lay out the infrastructure for Prattville where all of them live. This is part of the corruption. Now, it was so obvious to the international community that when the Granger administration came to power, the international community helped the Granger administration form an agency through legislation called the State Asset Recovery Unit, SARA. The PPP government stole so much money from the people of Guyana that the international community felt that there must be a state asset recovery unit to recover all the money and the assets they stole. And that agency has been working to recover billions of dollars through the sale of so many government property, overseas bank accounts, hundreds of billions of dollars, US dollars, over 500, $500 million US dollars was laundered through a bank. You all would recall that the APNU government was in a big fight with a bank on Water Street. It is because the US government wanted to get their hands on the documents to prove the money laundering. And they went to court and fought the order to turn over the information to the government. And as soon as the PPP came to power last year, they disbanded SARA. Of course, they will disband SARA. SARA was established to get the money that they stole. And now they've disbanded SARA and they're stealing more money. So now they're making it legal. They're going to Parliament to remove all the regulations with regard to the Natural Resources Fund. So they're disbanding in this committee. They said, no, too much people going to be involved in this oversight and accountability committee. We want so much people watching to see what we're doing. So we're going to put our own people in there. So we're going to knock out this law that they're introducing tomorrow. And they plan to enact it tomorrow, pass it into law tomorrow. That law will get rid of this committee, the oversight committee for the oil money. And the PPP will appoint a board of directors. The president of Guyana will appoint a board of directors, handpick a board of directors, right? And here, who will be on this board of directors that the PPP will handpick? Bar Jabeo would handpick. The committee will comprise one from Parliament. They're going to just pick somebody from Parliament to be on the committee. Then they'll pick 3 people from the religious organizations. Of course, it will be 3 people that support them. Then they'll pick 2 of their friends from the private sector commission. They're going to pick 2 of their friends from the private sector commission. Two representatives from the labor movement. Of course, they're going to pick Carvel Duncan and somebody who, pretend that they're from the labor movement. And then they said they will select 1 representative from the professions. Well, the guy that got hundreds of professions: doctor, lawyer, veterinarian, public servant, farmer, whatever. 1 representative from the professions. That's who they will put to manage Guyana's oil money. After they remove this broad-based committee that had representatives from the regions, civil society, women's organizations, youth organizations, Transparency Institute, the Bar Association, the Press Association, the Consumers Association, representatives of the trade union movement, chartered accountants, University of Guyana, private sector commission. No, that is too much information going to too wide a cross-section of the Guyanese people. The PPP believe that Guyana's oil resources are theirs. Guyana's oil monies are theirs. But it didn't even finish there. They will take away the responsibility from this committee and place it in the hands of the Minister of Finance. Right now, we don't know who's the Minister of Finance. On paper, we don't know. By instrument of the government, we don't know. You have Ashley Singh, who is the senior minister in the office of the president with responsibility for finance. Then you have Barjabeo, acting like he's the finance minister, minister of planning, minister of development, minister of foreign affairs, minister of everything to do with the money. Barjabeo is the minister of everything to do with the money, including the oil and gas industry. He's pronouncing on everything. One-man show. So the law that they will pass will give the powers to do whatever they want with this money to the Minister of Finance, who we know behind the scenes is Barjabeo. This is what's going on in Guyana. They are going all out to prevent accountability. All out to prevent accountability. Now hear this, watch this now. Under the Granger administration law, the withdrawal of money from the fund had to be by a formula that made sure the government had the wherewithal to manage the flow of withdrawal and to make sure that it went directly for the development of the country. So before the money was withdrawn, a series of things had to be taken into account. They had to do an analysis of inflation. They had to look at the exchange rate. They had to look at economic growth. They had to look at public spending as against income, revenues. They had to look at the public debt and other macroeconomic factors. In other words, they couldn't just take any amount of money. They had to moderately spend the money to ensure that the withdrawal of the money was sustainable. They had to make sure that as they withdraw money, more funds was coming in to maintain the fund for posterity, so that your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren will still have money in there 30, 40 years down the line. So it was a formula that demonstrated responsible governance. it had to take into consideration all of these economic and financial policy factors. It was a balancing act. PPP said, don't get rid of that. We just want to take the money and spend it. So they're authorizing themselves to withdraw up to 1.7 billion US dollars a year. 1.5. They're authorizing themselves to withdraw up to 1.5 billion US dollars a year from the fund. They're not looking at the macroeconomic factors. They're not going to look at inflation. They're not going to look at the public debt. They're not going to look at the income, income flow or the flow of payments from the sale of oil into their account. They just want to take all the money and spend every year with no accountability. Absolutely none. What accountability? Actually, it's $1.7 billion. $1.7 billion US dollars. Tomorrow, when they go to Parliament, they will give themselves the authority to take out up to 1.7 billion US dollars a year from the fund, from Guyana's oil fund, with no committee to oversee where this money is going. Everybody gonna get rich in the PPP. Why are Guyanese so quiet? Do Guyanese really understand what the PPP is doing to the country? Why is the diplomatic or the international community so silent? Why are the religious organizations silent? Why are the trade union movements, trade unions silent? Why is civil society silent? Why is the private sector silent? Well, we know why they're silent, because they're part of the PPP. Private Sector Commission, part of the PPP. The PPP government tomorrow will embark on changing the laws to allow them to steal Guyana's money without a trace. You can't trace that. There's nobody there to oversee it. They're putting their people. So imagine they put two of the pastors they know or part of their party, Edgin and somebody, to their friends on the Private Sector Commission, to their friends in the trade union movement, maybe Gahu and somebody from FITOG, and one professional. Well, that could be one of their lawyers. That's it. They're not going to be required after tomorrow to have a representative from the University of Guyana. No, they're too bright. If you put somebody from the University of Guyana, they're going to ask too much questions. They're going to be too bright. We don't want to deal with bright people in the PPP. We just want the money. That's why they fought so hard. That's why they indebted themselves billions of dollars to fight to get into government. I had all kinds of lobbying forums in the United States to get the Trump administration to install them in government in Guyana to get their hands on 1.7 billion US dollars a year with no accountability. That's what the PPP is trying to do to our country. They're trying to rape Guyana naked. And they're not even shy about it. They're not even covertly doing the thing. They're doing big and open. Now today, our finale said, the law that they're about to change tomorrow, it's not constitutional, because when it was passed, it was after the no confidence motion. And the government wasn't legal. Could you believe that? They went to court with that nonsense, and every court chased them out. Because the Constitution says the government remains in place until a new government is sworn in, a new president and government is sworn in. That happened on August 2nd, 2020. So if our finale wants to make that argument, let him go to court. Don't go to parliament and use your one-seat majority to change the law so you could thief the people's money, thief our money, so then you could give contracts, billions of dollars in contracts to your friends, billions of dollars in flood relief and COVID relief to your own East Indian supporters. You're transferring the wealth of the nation to one ethnic group. That's what the PPP is doing. And some people don't want to say it, but I don't care. That's my view. They're transferring the wealth of the country to one ethnic group. And we already have a wide wealth gap in the country. No Afro-Guyanese person could go to no bank in Guyana, which is controlled by mostly one ethnic group, to get a $4 billion loan to establish a rice factory. It would not happen. You could barely get a loan for a car. I have a friend in Linden who's building a fairly big structure. And he had to wait about 6 months to get an approval for a loan. And he had to take everything there, maybe including the color of his underwear, before he can get a loan from a bank. That's what's going on in Guyana. Now, what do we do about it? What do we as a population? This is not a Black or East Indian issue. This is a Guyanese issue. There's an issue of thieves versus the citizens. Now, I was talking to a PP person today who told me, well, the PNC got to organize, or the coalition got to organize and come back and win the elections in 20. No, we are waiting for 2015 to have good governance. 2025. There should be good governance now. The PPP government should govern the country for everybody. But they're demonstrating every day that they don't care about the other half of the population that did not vote for them or don't support them. And you would believe that these people won by a landslide. They won by 15,000 votes. And they stole those 15,000 votes. And that matter is still in court. Now, on the other hand, look at Barbados. The Prime Minister of Barbados won in 2018 by a landslide. There was no opposition seat in Parliament. The opposition did not win one seat in Parliament, not one, in Barbados in 2018. Mia Mottley won all the seats in Parliament. She had to appoint an opposition leader through the Senate. So she had to make a senator the opposition leader. But what is happening in Barbados? The society has become so divided, where yesterday she called the elections early, 18 months in advance. She called the elections and said the country has become so divided, she needs to go back and get a mandate from the people. PP won by 15,000 votes. They got one seat majority, and they're thieving all the money and give it to their supporters. And then they want to go to Parliament and legalize the theft of the money. And Guyanese are quiet. Guyanese are quiet. So the solution, as far as we're concerned, myself and my organization, must be equitable governance. Whoever is the government, whoever running the government, we don't know who running the government, Jack Day or Father, whoever running the government. They must sit with the people who don't support them to come up with a mechanism to govern this country equitably, govern our country equitably. The boards, the country is equally divided. They only won by 15,000 votes. That one seat majority in Parliament from the opposition won. And they're running the country like if they want all the seats in Parliament. They want everything for themselves and their ethnic supporters. And I want to be very clear. I've always said, this I'm a racist because I complain about racism. But I don't really care. Because that's the tactic of a racist, to accuse you of racism for speaking out. How dare you speak about my racism? I'm not a racist. You're the racist. Trumpism. Well, I'm not expressing hate. I'm not saying burn all the black people, poison the black people when you sell them boron, okra, and their greens. I'm not saying kill all of them, commune them. I'm not saying this money is for us. I'm not saying black people shouldn't rule the country. PPP supporters are saying it. They're the racists. We're responding to it. And I live in a society where we respond to racism with aggression. I live in a society where we respond to racism with aggression. And we tear it down. Last year, we had a revolution in the United States after George Floyd was killed against racism and racial injustice. We need that in Guyana. They say I'm breaking the law when I said that. We need we need a revolution against racism in Guyana and a revolution against racial injustice in Guyana. And every race should want that. Nobody should promote racism, no race. Every race should want a revolution. And a revolution means you fight for a change. That's what we did with the Black Lives Matter movement in America. We had a revolution against racism. And we had states and cities and localities all across this country changing their laws to ensure fairness, equality, balance, and equity. That's a revolution. That's what we need in Guyana. We need all the boards of the government to be equitable. We need land distribution to be equitable. Government contracts to be equitable. Oil and gas projects awarded should be equitable. All across society, we need equality. Black people aren't second-class citizens. Amerindians aren't second-class citizens. East Indians that don't support the PPP aren't second-class citizens. Who did? France, the PPP think that they're superior to everybody, that them alone know how to spend the country's money. We need equitable governance in the country. And the people of Guyana must come out tomorrow and protest the PPP changing the laws to give them permission to raid the National Resource Fund so they could thief the money and transfer it to themselves and their supporters. They already stole $5 billion according to the international community. Now today I noticed ANOG, which is a political party aligned with them, came out and said there's racism and they're using state resources. They're accessing state resources only for their own supporters. ANOG said that. That statement could easily have been issued by CGID. That's what we've been saying for the last year. Now tonight, ANOG has said it. Mr. Schuman, Lennox Schuman, who is the leader of the Labor and Justice Party, I think, has now said the same thing. They're discriminating against Amerindians. They're only governing the country for their own people. They're disrespectful. Now they want to fire him, they want to remove him because he's spoken the truth. They're asking their lawyers to charge people with criminal offenses when they condemn their racism. Hitler tactics. Hitler did that. And like I said before as I close, racism led Hitler to execute the Jews. The Holocaust was inspired by racism and bigotry. Slavery was inspired by racism. The imperialists, so-called Caucasians, they wanted slaves to do their work so that they could get money. And they went all across Africa and stole people, black people, strong black people, and took them all across this world and have them work for free. And they got rich off of it. Slaves built countries all across Europe and North America. That's why we've been calling for reparations. That's why we're calling for reparative justice, according to our finale, rough justice. They used the slaves to make billions of dollars all across the world, imperialists. It was driven by racism. The slavery and the Holocaust, they're the world's worst atrocity. And they were inspired by racism. Today, the world's worst atrocity is racism. Racism is driving ethnic cleansing all across the world, driving racial discrimination in Europe, in America. We saw that last year. Sorry, we saw that for the last 5 years during the Trump administration. Racism, the world's worst atrocity. That's what the PPP is practicing in Guyana. The world's worst atrocity. And they must be held accountable for it. Just like the Holocaust and slavery, they've killed hundreds. Well, in the case of slavery and the Holocaust, hundreds of thousands, millions. But in Guyana, the extrajudicial killings committed by PPP, the PPP, were inspired by racism. It was a genocide, it was a pogrom, and we've never had any justice. That's why I was in shock to see the ABC ambassadors fighting to put killers in government. It means that we didn't do a good job sensitizing the international community about the atrocities of Bar Jadeo and his cabal in the PPP. And now is the time when we must do it. Because they have billions of dollars in their sights. And when they get their hands on it, to hell Guyana would be going. To hell with the people of Guyana. To hell with Black people in Guyana. To hell with Amerindians in Guyana. To hell with Indians who don't support them. They will transfer all of the oil wealth to themselves and their ethnic supporters. There's no question about that. That's why we have to stop them tomorrow. That's why people got to raise hell in Guyana to stop the passage of this bill, which the PPP is about to give themselves and their ethnic supporters Guyana's oil money on a platter. And today saying that, Schumann was saying that, Glenn Lal every night screaming about PPP corruption and their intent now to legalize the theft of Guyana's oil money. We cannot afford to allow them to do it. Raise your voices. Whether you're at home, raise your voice. Whether you are a part of the private sector, raise your voice. Don't wait on the commission. The commission is part of the PPP. At least the executive leadership. If you're part of civil society, raise your voice to stop the steal of Guyana's oil resources. Kill that PPP bill. Kill the bill, like we say here. Kill the bill. Stop the steal, kill the bill. That should be the slogan tomorrow. Stop the steal, kill the bill. Whether you're from civil society, raise your voice. If you're from a women's organization, raise your voice. Youth groups across Guyana, raise your voice. It's your money. It's your future. They're about to steal. Whether you're from transparency groups, the Bar Association, we have hundreds of lawyers and doctors across Guyana, raise your voice. Whether you're part of the trade union movement, don't wait on Lincoln Lewis to talk. You raise your voice. And if you're from the University of Guyana, surely raise your voice. Whether you're a lecturer, whether you're a student, whether you're in administration, raise your voice. Don't allow them to steal the country's money. They're thieves. The PPP has run a kleptocracy. And now they're doing it again. And this time, they want to use their one-seat majority. One seat. To authorize themselves to raid the oil money, the fund that the oil money is deposited in. Y'all ever see anything barefaced like that? Barefaced thieves. Barefaced thieves. They got the gall to go to Parliament to pass a law to give themselves the authority to sign a deposit, sign a withdrawal slip, and take all the money from their account. That's what they're doing. Now imagine you are Goldman Sachs and you have 100 billion US dollars in the bank. And you have mechanisms to safeguard that money. And your CEO comes to the board with a resolution to give him, his buddy over there, his buddy over there, and his two girlfriends up the road the authority to withdraw the money, the company's money. That's what the PPP is doing. And we must stop them. We must not allow the PPP to steal the country's money. I can't emphasize it more. Guyanese have to start raising their voice. Stop acting like y'all dotish. Raise your voices. Stop being scared. The police force can't shoot out all y'all. The police force can't monitor everybody. Raise your voices. Condemn what they're doing. Right across right all over the world to the international organizations. Right to the White House, right to the State Department, right to the government of Canada, right to the government of the United Kingdom, right to the United Nations, the OAS, CARICOM. Right, raise your voices to stop the steal of Guyana's oil money and prevent the PPP from transferring that money to themselves and their own ethnic supporters. Guyana make up of PPP East Indians alone. Guyana is made up of everybody. And this racism that the PPP is going on with, that ANOC today said exists, must end. And we must force the PPP into an agreement for equitable governance. I want to see who would raise their hand to object to equitable governance in Guyana. If you object to the equitable governance of the country, raise your hand. If you think the country's resources belong to one set of people alone, raise your hand, let me see. I want to see who has the gall, the effrontery to raise their hand to object to government of Guyana for all of the people. That's the show tonight. That's the show tonight. Raise your voices. Stop the steal. If nothing else, I want you all to remember is raise your voice, stop the steal, kill the PPP bill. So I want everybody here tonight, 12,000 of you watching live, all across social media. We have people on YouTube and 4 Facebook pages. Go and post, stop the steal of our oil money, kill the PPP bill. Raise your voice in opposition. That's my message for you tonight. Good night, everybody. I think I'll do another show before the new year, and I'll see you then. Everybody take care. Remember, COVID is real. Take all the precautions. Social distance, wear your mask. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you for listening. Kill the bill. Stop the steal. Raise your voice in opposition. Good night, everybody.